Being as big of a show as it is, it's no surprise that SpongeBob has produced dozens of specials over the course of its run, ranging from simply double-length episodes to festive holiday stories to grand events like Atlantis SquarePants and the Runaway Road Trip. They're usually among the biggest, most extravagant moments in the show's history. One has always stuck out to me among the crowd, however. Featuring over 25 guest stars and premiering on VH1 on July 14, 2009, it was the franchise's very first anniversary special. I'm of course talking about the documentary Square Roots, the story of SpongeBob SquarePants. This thing has always mystified me. Nickelodeon has always advertised SpongeBob as a children's property, and few children are drawn to documentaries the same way they are to comic books and video games, so I assume this was a piece of media aimed at adult fans of the series. Why'd they make it then? Why not do it again? And what does this documentary tell us about the production and impact of the show? The special was first announced in a press release on June 25th, 2009, but there's a good possibility that it started production earlier. It was directed by Patrick Creadon and produced by him and his wife, Creadon O'Malley, filmmakers best known for making documentaries about the New York Times crossword editor Will Short's Wordplay and the United States national debt IOUSA. A Nickelodeon show isn't that much different, let's be honest. I tried going on their website to find more information on the film, but all I found was a fan re-upload. Something you'll have to prepare for with these is that usually the frame moves around a lot to decrease the chance of getting taken down. I guess if you're a pirate, you gotta prepare to get seasick. But yeah, strange that the Creadon O'Malley site just links to a re-upload, not the official thing or a sneak peek clip or something. Is it worth picking up the first 100 episodes set? Its one and only DVD release? From the offset, this makes it clear to you that it isn't any old piece of SpongeBob media, a content advisory that should only be reserved for the ex-presidents and midlife crustaceans of the world. Then you get an opening montage set to Avril Lavigne's cover of the SpongeBob theme. I already know what decade this was made in. We're then given a report by Realistic Talking Fish Head that it's SpongeBob's 10th anniversary since first appearing in July 1999. The documentary hasn't even started yet and I'm already fuming. It premiered in May! We then get a small taste of the show's impact, a TV guide cover with him and Popeye, a few celebrity interviews, and Robert Thompson saying this:
I don't think we can possibly overestimate how much this has penetrated American culture.
Then this.
It was as though the territory that had been once dominated by Mickey Mouse was now being rehabitated by SpongeBob SquarePants.
Those sentences together have always perplexed me. I mean, to me, SpongeBob commands a closer comparison to The Simpsons. They're both comedy cartoons about yellow characters with equally massive cult followings. Even weirder is that they bring up how SpongeBob stood out from other 90s cartoons that were edgy and sarcastic in nature, but The Simpsons is nowhere to be seen. Maybe Creadon and O'Malley chose not to compare it to The Simpsons for one reason or another. Maybe Stephen Hillenberg advised against it, since he didn't like when SpongeBob was compared to it. It's not a big deal that destroys the documentary for me, and I've lived to see the day where Peter Griffin's in an official piece of SpongeBob media. We then get an interview from the late Stephen Hillenberg, and how he was inspired to draw and teach marine biology from his love of the ocean and Jacques Cousteau films. You've already heard this 100 times, but do remember that Steve was a very private man, and this was the first time many people had seen him and knew what he was like. He also provides some insight into his work ethic. That's really nice. Steve isn't the focal point in this, remember, private man, but he has a fair bit of screen time, and what he delivers is sweet. You get to see him lecture at an aquarium, and in old videos during the premiere party and second and third season pickups. And it's really cool to see him and his team so happy and confident with their work, even before it had taken over the world. Many more SpongeBob crew members are interviewed as well. Mr. Lawrence in particular provides some fun facts, like how he and Steve were able to incorporate jokes into SpongeBob that they couldn't do when they worked on Rocko's Modern Life. I know what you're thinking, what couldn't they do on that show? Well, he singles out the live-action material. Bill Fagerbakke actually reveals that when he first read for Patrick, he thought it was going to be a preschool show.
I had no idea what was going on with this cartoon. I just thought it was just some inane pulp for preschoolers.
It's part of this big, intense sequence where they're hammering in that this was a crazy idea, it would never work, what if Nickelodeon turned them down? And all this feels really exaggerated for dramatic purposes. From what's been documented elsewhere, Nickelodeon was only skeptical during the development phase, and were pleased with it by the time they saw the pilot, which was made years before the show first broadcast. But I digress. How many people are interviewed here? As I mentioned, dozens of celebrities, a lot of which guest starred on SpongeBob. It's fun to see some of their reactions to the show and others' reactions to their roles. Ernest Borgnine's is wonderfully heartwarming. Tim Conway's is very bittersweet.
My granddaughter said, you know, have you seen SpongeBob? And I said, I don't think so. And she said, you know, you're on it. So I tuned in and by golly, she was right.
Here's Gene Shalit, Marion Ross. We got Johnny Depp and Patton Oswalt, we promise. Patchy somehow snuck onto the set. And Ricky Gervais sounds like he's never even watched the show.
I mean, I like the fact that he's yellow. I like the fact that he's porous.
Hydrodynamically designed.
I like that he's got a head like a orange. As extravagant as all these celebrity interviews are, I, as a fan of SpongeBob SquarePants, came here for comments from the show's staff. What does Derek Iverson think of the show's endurance? How has Paul Tibbett kept it chugging? Funny thing about the turnover between the first movie and season 4, they present it as an ad break cliffhanger, like, oh no, can SpongeBob survive Steven Hillenberg's departure? Critically, that's up to opinion.
How come you made Patrick act so dumb? It does get to be a little overwhelming.
But this is talking about the impact and longevity of the show, and that was all still going strong 5 years after the movie. It's another thing that strikes me as a dramatization meant to keep people entertained rather than fully informed. And as you can see, the picture quality on clips from the show varies drastically. Sometimes the colors are fine, other times the contrast is turned up far too much. Yellow seems to be a pretty hard color for them to keep consistent. It's a shame that it's one of the colors you see the most in their most valuable property. A lot of the second half of the documentary is taken up by stories surrounding SpongeBob and its worldwide impact. They reference the time SpongeBob ranked higher than Simon Cowell on a Sexiest Man Alive list, then President Barack Obama's fandom of the show, the 2004 Burger King balloon kidnappings. None are more important than when they were referenced on 2.5 Men, and the show's biggest fan club, the San Quentin State Prison.
I've gotten fan mail here, and oddly enough, a lot of it comes from prisons.
But when it comes to SpongeBob news stories in the 2000s, there's a very big elephant in the room.
Is something about SpongeBob that whispers gay.
Everything about this is unbelievable. The way they edited a clip to make it seem like he has the big secret being revealed in-universe, the fact that Sandy of all characters is shocked by it, the spinning newspaper with tense music, the headline, it's unintentional comedy gold. And funnier than any SpongeBob episode released in 2009. At least they cut to a Whoopi Goldberg routine that sums up my thoughts on the controversial subject properly.
How do we know that he's gay? We don't know about SpongeBob. Except that he lives in a pineapple under the sea.
This thing is a trip. I think as a documentary about the creation and production of SpongeBob, it could be a lot more detailed without needing to sacrifice appealing to kids. As a celebration of the character and his global reach, it's an okay ride, though pretty outdated now. It was made in 2009 after all, not even halfway through the show's total run. A lot more has happened since then, both on and off screen. The show's been through 2 additional movies and 6 additional seasons, among other material, and the internet's relationship with the show has changed completely. No one was sharing hundreds of SpongeBob memes or reviewing its episodes as real pieces of comedy in 2009. It wasn't the worst year to reflect on the show, but commissioning a SpongeBob documentary now would give the director a chance to dive a lot deeper into its legacy, what works about it as a show, why it's been around this long, how the production process goes currently. There's always such a thing as being too nosy, and any production deserves some confidentiality and its team some privacy. But as we get closer to the silver anniversary, I want to see Nickelodeon deliver something that can truly grab the interest of longtime fans, adults that have been around since the beginning or thereabouts. And while there's some topics and square roots that aren't discussed in any other SpongeBob media, it still has to fit into the bubbly, cutesy vibe of the show. Think about it, realistic fish head and Patchy appear, meaning this is currently canon to the show. I don't think Square Roots is worth your time if you're looking for a deep analysis of the show from the fans and people who made it. Maybe that will come in the future? You can only wait and see what happens next. Goodbye for now.
You know, Mark Twain said, make your vocation a vacation. Animation's a lot of work. So I definitely felt like, hey, we're going to be here every day. We might as well be enjoying it.